So the donor has now had this in their mouth for about 3 minutes, and as you can see, a blue colour has now appeared in the little window, so it's turned from white to blue. We then take it out of the employee's mouth, and we open up the collection vial. We place the whole pad, including the stick, into the vial, and we firmly put the lid on. We then take the next collection device out of the packaging, put it into the employee's mouth, and within 2 to 3 minutes you should see the blue colour appear in there as well. I generally tend to do this one at a time. I don't want this lying on the surface or anywhere else. So open up the second vial, place the collection device into the vial all the way into the bottom, and close that up. So we now have both of the collection devices in the vials with the suspension fluid. We then we take our tamper evidence seals, which have been initialed and dated by the employee at the bottom of the form here. Take these one at a time. These are a bit tricky, they will stick to gloves, so you have to just be a bit careful with this. We place the first one over the top of the vial and down the side. And then we do the same with the second one. So we now have one with the letter A, one with the letter B on. It's really important when you do these that you don't tear or rip these tamper of evidence seals, because if you do, then chain of custody has been broken and the laboratory won't be able to run the test. So we now take our transport pots, open them up one at a time. We place these inside. We place the letter on the cap face down into the pot, and we screw the lid on. It's really important here that you don't put these in with the letter facing up. If I do this and then screw the lid down, the little nib on the bottom there will break off and the fluid will leak into the bottom of the pot. Once again, chain of custody has now been broken, so it's really important that you place these letter down, face down into the bottom of the pot. Screw that up. We then take two of the barcodes that are at the top of the form here, and we place one of those on each of the transport pots. One there and one there. You don't need to do anything with the other two barcodes. They can just stay on the top part of the form. So we now have the collection devices inside the transport pot with the tamper of evidence seals on, one marked A and one marked B. We have the barcodes on each of them. We now place these into the front part. As I mentioned when I took the cat out of the packaging, that there are two parts of this bag. So we place the vials into the front part of the bag. We then come back to the form itself. At this point, I normally give this to my co-assessor to ask them to check to make sure this has been signed and dated in the right places. This should now have 3 signatures remaining on it, bearing in mind we've taken the tamper of evidence seals off. It should have a signature by the employee for donor declaration for medication. It should also have their signature and date on for donor consent to test, and your signature for as a collecting officer and a date. And please remember to make sure that you tell the laboratory what you want them to test for in that box there. So we take the white part of this form, so the top copy of the form, fold this up and put this into the back part of the bag. So the white part, white copy of the form and the oral fluid in the pots are now in separate parts of the bag. We do that just in case there's any leakage in transport. Then take the little white seal off the top of the bag and push that down and seal that. That then goes into the transport bag off to the laboratory, first class paid postage. So slide that into there. Take the seal off, seal that down. That's first class paid post, and that goes straight off to the laboratory. The pink copy is the employee's copy. They have to have a copy of the form. It's a record of what's happened while the sample's been taken. They may ask at this stage that they get their own sample tested, and you just simply tell them to contact the laboratory, and the details given at the bottom of the form there. They contact the laboratory and tell them which laboratory they want their sample sent to, and then the laboratory will effectively talk to each other and get that sorted. It will normally cost them between £80 and £120 to get their own sample tested, so you give that to the employee. The blue copy is the collector's copy, and the green copy is the employer's copy. Unless there's a real need why those two should be kept separate, then I would normally keep them together. I would staple that to the initial consent form that we done with our first line drug test, and that's how to take and complete a chain of custody test using oral fluid and send it off to the laboratory.